Hey losers, I'm Coral. Welcome back to my channel. I'm super excited to bring to you a video today. This is going to be old school April content. I'm going to be going through the reading prompts today and offering one suggestion per prompt. However, every single book that I picked fulfills at least, I'm pretty sure every single one fulfills at least 4 prompts, and most of them fulfill more than 4. So really all the prompts are fulfilled multiple times. It's just that I did not tally up which ones are fulfilled how many times. So it's like, you know, I picked a book per prompt and then was like, oh, which other ones do these fulfill? So hopefully this is helpful. I will also be typing this out in my description. Okay, listen, there are 45 prompts here. So at first I was like, oh, I'll do multiple suggestions per prompt. But then I was like, oh, wait. I just don't have time for that. It took me hours to do this last night with just one book per prompt. Anyway, so this is what's happening here. Get ready. Get ready for this shit. Okay, but also I should say that a couple of these prompts, these depend on you. For example, the yearbook prompt, this is to read a book from the decade you were born. I did specify a couple of these written 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I did specify that, but also read a used or borrowed book. That really depends on you. Read a new to you genre or author. That depends on you. There are a couple like that in here, so that depends on you, okay? I can't do that for you. To start out, my host picks. I wanted to tell you what prompts you can fulfill if you pick up my host picks. The first one here, Spell for Chameleon by Piers Anthony. If you pick this up, this is a fantasy book. This is a fantasy book. So let's see. First of all, my copy of this is over, okay, that's another one, is the larger than life prompt is to read a book over 300 pages. So that is kind of dependent on the copy that you have. Mine is over 300 pages, so mine would fulfill the larger than life. I have my cheat sheet on every single copy. So mine would fulfill the larger than life prompt. It would also fulfill the retro vintage prompt, which is to read a book that came out before 2005, because we're considering, we're going by the rule that anything vintage is older than 20 years, which I know, terrifying. That's like 2004, it's like considered vintage now. For the yearbook prompt, this came out in the 70s, so if that is the decade you were born in, that would fulfill this prompt. Teen Witch for magic, it fulfills the Pimp My Ride prompt since this is a host pick. Willow, because this is a fantasy, and this one may be fudging it a little bit, but Piers Anthony, when you look it up, it says he's an American author, but he was born in England. So I'm gonna say that this fulfills the Britpop / Brit invasion prompt. And also, my copy of this is kind of a gold color. So I'm gonna say, if you have this specific copy of A Spell for Chameleon by Piers Anthony, maybe you could say that this fulfills the little golden booked prompt as well. Depending on your copy of this could fulfill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 prompts. My next host pick is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. This would also hit the retro vintage prompt. If you were born in the 60s, this would be a pick for the yearbook prompt. Since this is written by a female author and also has a female protagonist, I mean, this is an either or prompt, but since it fulfills both of those, this is a good candidate for the Buffy prompt. This fulfills the mini-me / short circuit prompt since this is a novella length book. This also fulfills the Pimp My Ride prompt since this is my host pick. Breakfast Club, which is to read a book with food on the cover or a story that has food in it. And I'm gonna say with the, the sugar bowl, I'm gonna say that you could count it towards that for sure. And I'm gonna say this could also definitely count towards the Tiny Toons prompt, which is to read a book with an unhinged or unreliable main character. And let's just say you really don't know who's telling the truth in this story. All right, from here I'm just going to be going down the list. I'm not going to hit on the larger than life prompt because that's really broad enough to where, I mean, I think probably you yourself can pick a book. You can find a book that's over 300 pages. But I am going to do the retro vintage prompt. This is to read a book that was published before 2005. So that means a book that was published 2004 or before. So for this I picked Pin by Andrew Niederman. I did look it up. Since this is a vintage book, of course, it might be hard to find a copy. So I did look it up, and you can buy an ebook copy of this. This is by Andrew Niederman. And this will fulfill, obviously, the retro vintage prompt. If you were born in the 80s, this will fulfill the yearbook prompt. This, I'm gonna say, could also fulfill the Toy Story prompt, which is to read a book featuring toys or doll on the story or in the cover. And since Pin is like an anatomical doll, for sure, this could be used for that prompt. I'm gonna say also the X-Files prompt, since there are science elements. He's an anatomical, Pin is an anatomical, like, medical, he was used for like their father's medical practice. So I'm gonna say science elements. And also, I'm gonna say the neon prompt, which is to read a book with neon colors on the cover, since this is like definitely kind of neon red and blue. If you're born in the 80s, this could fulfill 5 prompts. If you're not, it could fulfill 4. The next prompt is Time Warp, read a book set in the 80s or 90s, or a book with nostalgic vibes. And this is a book that is another host's pick, fulfills quite a few. This is Dead 11 by Jimmy Giuliano, and this will fulfill the larger than life prompt, the Time Warp prompt, neon prompt. This will fulfill the VCR prompt, which is to read a book with old technology on the cover or in the story. This will fulfill the 16 candles prompt, which is to read a book with a number in the title. This will fulfill the Fern Gully prompt, which is to read a book with nature on the cover or in the story. You got the nice cliff scene here. And also the Pimp My Ride prompt, since this is another host's pick. Okay, the next prompt is Killer Clowns, a book featuring a clown or a carnival. This is either in the story or on the cover. So for this one, I picked Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. This edition of this will fit the larger than life prompt, retro vintage, since it was published before 2004 or before 2005. The Killer Clowns prompt, obviously. This will also fulfill the halfway to Halloween prompt, which is to read a book set around Halloween. This is set in October. I'm not sure if, I'm pretty sure it goes almost all the way up to Halloween. It's been a couple years since I read this, but I'm gonna say if it's set in October, it's set around Halloween, right? This will fulfill the Once Upon a Forest prompt, which is to read a coming of age story or a story where a cast of kids are the main characters. And also the Scooby-Doo prompt, which is to read a book where man is the real monster. So this will fulfill 6 prompts if you pick up Something Wicked This Way Comes. Okay, so looking at my list, I did skip neon. So that's to read a book with a neon color on the cover. I don't know why, if I did that intentionally, thinking about it, but I'm sure that's easy enough for you to find. Also, yearbook I skipped. That one's kind of self-explanatory. I've got a couple here, like I said, that I've labeled depending on the year you're born. That's kind of up to you. Next is Free Willy, read an animal attack book or a book featuring an animal companion. I'm gonna say some of these, the animal attack books, at least in my experience, you gotta be kind of careful if you're someone who is sensitive to animals. And in this one, it is kind of sad, just FYI, if you're kind of, and I feel like I am, but I feel like I was able to get through this one, and I really like this book still. So this is Hellhound by Ken Greenhall. This fulfills the retro vintage prompt. If you were born in the 70s, this fulfills the yearbook prompt. This fulfills the mini-me prompt, which is to read a short story or novella. This fulfills, obviously, the Free Willy prompt. The Tiny Toons prompt, which is to read a story where the main character is unreliable or unhinged. And let me tell you, this pup You're following around, you're like in the mind of this crazy killer dog, and he is very smart and unhinged, I would say. And also, since I'm just gonna put a blanket statement around the horror books, I should have done that before, but I'm gonna say anything horror related, I would say could also fit for the Freddy Nightmares prompt, which is to read a book that could give you nightmares. So any horror book going forward, I should remember to include that, but I didn't always remember to write that on here for some reason. But that one could also, this could also be included for the Freddy's Nightmares prompt. All right, next up we have Buffy, which is to read a book written by a woman or with a female protagonist. So this is Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. So this will fulfill the Buffy prompt, the Mini-Me prompt because it is a novella. This will fulfill the Fern Gully prompt since it has nature on the cover. Reading Rainbow prompt, which is to read a book written by a diverse author or with a diverse cast of characters. I don't know about the author, but there is a sapphic romance in this, which was really good. I really love this book. That will fit that prompt. Breakfast Club, there are cupcakes on the cover, and also one of the characters in this, I mean, really, they talk about food a lot in this book, so this will for sure fit for that. This will also fit for the Tiny Toons prompt, and also, I'm gonna say this will fit for the Ghostwriter prompt, which is to read a book about books or or writers, not ghostwriters. One of the characters in this writes poems throughout the book, so I thought that would fit for that. And I probably should have included this earlier, but I've read all of these books. It's a little bit easier for me to pick apart these and be able to give good recommendations because I've read them, you know what I mean? So I feel like I can really hammer out all the details for you, you know what I mean? For the Teen Witch prompt, which is to read a book with magical elements, magical items, witches, cursed objects, anything magical, I am going to recommend The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This will fit the larger than life prompt, the Killer Clowns prompt, since there is like a circus, a carnival, the Buffy prompt, Teen Witch prompt, obviously. This will also do the Young and the Restless prompt. Oh, you know what? I should have also included that. This, I think, would fit the Young and the Restless prompt since there is a romance in this book. So the Young and the Restless prompt also fits for this, which is to read a book. To read a romance, a smut book, or a saucy book. When you look this up, this is like one of the subgenres, like a fantasy romance, a romantasy, whatever they call them. So I'm gonna say that fits for this. And then also, since it's a fantasy, you can count this towards the Willow prompt. Then for the VCR prompt, which is to read a book with old technology on the cover or in the story, I've chosen Mr. Magic by Kirsten White. This would fit the Time Warp prompt, which, to remind you, is a book set in the 80s or 90s, or a book with a nostalgic vibe. This has multiple timelines. One of them is when the characters are children. So I'm going to assume that like they were children back in that time. This will fit obviously the Neon prompt, the Buffy prompt since it's written by a woman author, Teen Witch, I mean Mr. Magic, right? The VCR prompt, obviously Back to the Future because it has multiple timelines, and also Once Upon a Forest since one of the timelines includes a cast of kids. The next prompt is Throwback, read a Christopher Pike, a Fear Street book, or All Point horror book. And for this one hits a lot of prompts. This is Die Softly by Christopher Pike. So this would hit retro vintage, neon. If you're born in the 90s, this will hit yearbook. This will hit the throwback prompt, which is, you know, the one I'm telling you about. This will also hit the VCR prompt because look, camera, old camera. This will also do the Goonies prompt, which is to read a middle grade or YA book, and also Once Upon a Forest, since it is a cast of will teenagers count? I feel like yes, right? All right, the next prompt is you're in for a scare. Read a Goosebumps book. And this one, oh boy, this one hits a lot. This one is a good one. This is Egg Monsters from Mars by R.L. Stein. This is a Goosebumps book, and this hits so many prompts. Okay, so retro vintage, obviously. If you're born in the 90s, this will do the yearbook prompt for you. The You're in for a scare prompt, obviously. Breakfast Club, since it has food on the cover. The X-Files prompt, since they are from Mars. Monster Squad, because they are egg monsters, okay? The Goonie Squad, since this is a middle grade book. Also, Once Upon a Forest, because it's a Goosebumps book, and obviously the main characters are kids in this. And then also Little Golden Book, because we've got a nice golden yolky egg on the cover. So if you are born in the 90s, this will hit 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 prompts. I think this one might be the most prompts, I think. Maybe, possibly. I didn't count to see. But this one, I mean, really, I didn't look through all my Goosebumps books or anything like that. So there are probably books out there that hit more. It's just, I grabbed this one because I really like this Goosebumps book too. This is one of my favorites from when I was a kid. And I just happened to pick it, and then I was looking through it and I was like, oh, this hit so many. So there you go. I think that this might be the only book on this list that I haven't read yet, because I couldn't think of a book for this prompt. But for the next prompt, Mall of America, which, if you haven't been, kind of not as cool as, I mean, like, it's kind of a novelty. It's like, oh, cool, Mall of America, but most of it is just multiple of the same stores, coming from someone who grew up within driving like 30 minutes away from there. So, Mall of America, a mall is featured in the book or story. So for this, I'm gonna recommend, although I haven't read it, Mallrats by, oh god, who's the author? Ivy, her name is Ivy, which is really cute. Ivy Tholen. Okay, so for this, you would be able to fulfill the larger than life prompt, the Time Warp prompt, the Neon prompt, the MOA prompt, Mall of America prompt, Once Upon a Forest prompt, and possibly more. I just don't know because I haven't read it. So there you go. And that's also the magic of reading the books, is afterwards you might fulfill more prompts than you even knew going into it. So many more prompts to go. Okay, I think I skipped Toy Story since I included that in with Pin. And I couldn't think of any others that I've read that I could recommend. Toy Story, Pin, think of that. I don't know. You can get it on the Kindle or your Kobo. Next is Mini-Me / Short Circuit. Read a short story or a novella. For this, I would recommend Below by Laurel Hightower. This would fit the Buffy prompt since the protagonist is a woman and also the author is a woman. Obviously the Mini-Me prompt. It would fulfill the Monster Squad prompt because there is a cryptid on the cover, or a monster cryptid. Then also, I'm gonna say the ghostwriter prompt too, because she talks about going to a book con over and over in this book. I mean, not ad nauseum, but it's mentioned more than once that she is a reader and she is on her way to a book con. So I want to say it could fulfill that prompt. That's the beauty of book prompts, baby. Next is Off the Rack, Read a Nostalgic Magazine. I didn't really go through and think of what other prompts this would fulfill, but for myself, I'm just gonna read a copy of Fangoria. I haven't gotten to yet. I have a subscription for that. So that's what I'm doing. The next prompt is Reading Rainbow. Read a book by a diverse author or a book with a diverse cast of characters. For that, I'm choosing Exquisite Corpse by Poppy Z. Bright. Of course, with everything. Make sure to check trigger warnings. Make sure to check content warnings. This one is a difficult read, but a really beautiful read. Poppy Z. Bright is a trans author. There are queer characters in this book. This would fulfill the retro vintage prompt. If you're born in the 90s, the yearbook prompt, Reading Rainbow prompt, the Young and the Restless prompt, because this is all kind of about strange love, I guess. The Tiny Toons prompt, because some of these people are fucking nuts in this book. Scooby-Doo, since man is the real monster. Let's say Breakfast Club, because there is some strange food involved in this. And also the Say Anything prompt. I don't think we've touched on that one yet. That is a book featuring music or musical elements. One of the POVs in this is someone who is like a DJ. So I'm gonna say it fits that as well, which is if you're born in the 90s, 2, 4, 6, 8 prompts. That's pretty good. That book is tough though. So I wouldn't just pick that one up flippantly. Okay, the next prompt is Spellmaster. So this one I didn't choose a book to showcase for it because this one is kind of up to you. This is to spell a word, an 80s or 90s word, using letters found anywhere on the cover. So when I do my TBR, I'll let you know what I chose for that. But this is, for example, if you take, let's take Exquisite Corpse. So we look at all the letters on the cover of this, and we could choose any sort of nostalgic 80s or 90s word: tubular, bodacious, surf's up. Why am I only thinking of surfer words? Brittany, I don't know, like any word that makes you think immediately of like that time. Even like a cartoon word like Rugrats or something like that. If you could spell that on the cover, use that book. You know what I mean? That's all that means. So that's a fun, really fun prompt. Oh, next, so the prompt is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. This is to match a book to a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. And let me tell you, I'm not very familiar with the Power Rangers at all. It seems weird for me when I even think about this, but this cartoon was banned in my house. Like, my mom wouldn't let me watch this, which is very weird if you know my mom at all, because she was like not a parent who censored anything. But I guess this was like, I mean, this was when I was very young still, so she must not have had like her sea legs, you know, or she must have like, I don't know. It's just really weird. So I did not get to watch the Power Rangers. And then, you know, then I was too old to care about the Power Rangers, I guess. So all I know is there are colors, and I know that there are swords, and I know that they, at least at some point, were also dinosaurs. Ugh! Also, it's slightly warm out, so now it's fly season, of course. Fucking A. The book I'm choosing for this has to do with dinosaurs, which I do really love dinosaurs, and this is The Last Days of the Dinosaurs by Riley Black. If you read this book, you could fulfill the prompts. Larger Than Life. Buffy, it's written by a female author. Reading Rainbow, this author's trans. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. X-Files prompt, since it has science elements. Fern Gully, since it has to do with nature. And also the True Life prompt, which is to read a nonfiction book. This book was really good. I really loved it. There you go. Mighty Morphin, I don't know anything about them. Wish I did now, huh? Maybe I'll have to read them for, or maybe I'll have to watch it for the readathon. A watchathon. Next prompt, 16 candles, read a book with the number in the title. Okay, side note, I didn't pick out any other prompts this might fill, but I am currently reading a book called Number One Fan by Meg Ellison, and it is really, really good. So there you go. That would fit this prompt. But also 101 books to read, 101 horror books to read before you're murdered by Sadie Hartman. This would fulfill the Buffy prompt, obviously the 16 candles prompt. This would fulfill the Muppet Babies prompt. We haven't talked about this one yet. Where is it? Okay, the Muppet Babies prompt is to read a picture book or a book with pictures in it. So since this has photographs of the books and it has some illustrations at the beginning of the chapters, I'm gonna say you could use that for that prompt. True Life, since it's nonfiction, and the Ghostwriter prompt, since it is a book about books. We have so far to go. Okay, next is the Say Anything prompt. Read a book featuring music or with musical elements. This is also another host's pick, but this is We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix. So this would fulfill the Larger Than Life prompt, the Time Warp prompt, the Buffy prompt, since it has a female protagonist, the Say Anything prompt, obviously, Back to the Future, since it has multiple timelines, Freddy's Nightmare, it's a horror book, and also the Pimp My Ride prompt, since it is a host pick. The Young and the Restless, which is to read a romance, a smut book, or a saucy book, so take your pick. It could be whatever kind of romance book you want, or like a romantasy book, which is what this is. The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This book would fulfill Larger Than Life. Buffy, since it is written by a female author. The Teen Witch prompt, since it has magical elements in it. The Young and the Restless. Fern Gully, since it has nature on the cover. This would fulfill the Willow prompt, since it's a fantasy. The Goonies prompt, since it is a YA book. And since it has gold on the cover, this would fulfill the Little Golden Books prompt. Breakfast Club, read a book with food on the cover or in the story. Next is Reception by Kenzie Jennings. This would fulfill the Buffy prompt, the Breakfast Club prompt, which is what I picked it for. This would fulfill the Tiny Toons prompt. The main character in this is a recovering, I don't remember if she's an alcoholic or a drug addict, but she's lost some trust with her family, and there's some question about what's happening in this. Freddy's Nightmares prompt, and also the Scooby-Doo prompt, since man is the real monster. Okay, now onto my big stack down here. The next prompt is X-Files, read a sci-fi book or a book with science elements. This is another host pick. This is Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. This is a really fucking great book. If you've not read Jurassic Park, oh, so good. So this would fulfill the larger than life prompt, the retro vintage prompt. If you were born in the 90s, this will fulfill the yearbook prompt. This is, I'm gonna say this is an animal attack book, right? So this would fulfill the Free Willy prompt, the X-Files prompt, obviously, the Pimp My Ride prompt, since it's a host pick, and also, since it has a Tyrannosaurus Rex, this would fulfill also the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers prompt. Next prompt is Tiny Toons, read a book with an unhinged character or an unreliable main character. Oh boy, I think everyone in this entire book is a little bit kooky. This is Made for Love by Eliza Nutting. Oh boy, I think it's so weird. Okay, so this would fulfill the larger than life prompt, obviously the Tiny Toons prompt. This would fulfill the neon prompt. So many good colors on the cover. The Free Willy prompt. There is a dolphin in this story who is in the story. Fern Gully, there's nature on the cover, and I'm gonna say there is this prompt, Tiger Beat. I didn't go into this one too much when I was coming up with these, just because this one's kind of more, this is a prompt that takes a lot of thought, but I'm gonna say the prompt is Tiger Beat, and it is to match a book with a boy band song. But I know there's that Hanson song called Weird, and so it's like, oh, that's this book. Fucking, it's just weird. It's just weird as fuck. Okay, so then, oh, that's the next prompt is Tiger Beat, read a book that matches a boy band song. So the song I picked for this is the LFO song Summer Girls, and this is a song about a boy who meets a girl over summer break, and yeah, just the feeling of summer, stuff like that, and not knowing if he's ever gonna see her again. It was just like that one summer kind of a thing. So it fulfills Tiger Beat. The Time War prompt, Monster Squad, because there are some monsters in this story, and also Once Upon a Forest, since this is a coming of age story. All right, next prompt, Fern Gully, read a book with nature on the cover or in the story. For this, I chose Primal Animals by Julia Lynn Rubin. This fulfills the Fern Gully prompt, the larger than life prompt, the Buffy prompt, Reading Rainbow prompt. This fulfills the Goonies prompt, since it is YA, and also Once Upon a Forest, since it's kind of a coming of age story. All right, the next prompt, Sesame Street. I did not pick a book for, since this is to use a letter picker wheel. So you use like a random number generator, and then when you get your number, you use that to choose your book. So you can either match it with a title or with the author name, first or last. Let's say you spin the wheel and you get the letter A. You can choose a book title that starts with the letter A, or you can choose an author's first name that starts with the letter A, or an author's last name that starts with the letter A. Next is Muppet Babies, read a picture book. For this, I chose a graphic novel that I really like. This is Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. If you read Saga, this will fulfill the Muppet Babies prompt. This will fulfill Free Willy. There is an animal companion in this. the lion cat, which is like one of my favorite things in the whole world. This will fulfill the Buffy prompt since the illustrator in this is a woman. Teen Witch, there is a lot of magic in this. Reading Rainbow, the cast of characters in this is very diverse. The Young and the Restless, the whole plot of this is these lovers getting hunted down. And then also the X-Files prompt, because this is like a sci-fi story. Takes place in outer space. Man, this is a great, great graphic novel series. Next is Willow, read a fantasy book. For this, I'm recommending The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This will fulfill the prompts Larger Than Life, Free Willy, Teen Witch, Fern Gully, Willow, The Goonies, since it is YA, and also Once Upon a Forest, since the main characters are a cast of kids. Then next, Pretty in Pink, which, if you didn't know, that's where I got my channel name from. I love puns. And when I was coming up for the name I started out with my Instagram. That's where it came from. There you go. Pretty in Pink, read a book with a color in the title. So for this, I'm recommending Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This will fulfill the prompts Larger Than Life, X-Files, since this is like a sci-fi book, Pretty in Pink, obviously, The Goonies, since this is YA, and if you pick up the sequel, it is gold. So, I don't know. I mean, you could read both of them. The next prompt, Monster Squad, is to read a book with a monster in the story or on the cover, whatever kind of monster you would like. For this, I'm recommending The Wicked by James Newman. This has this creepy demon, I think his name is Moloch, on the cover. So this would fulfill the Monster Squad. This would for sure fulfill the Time Warp prompt, since this has like really heavy nostalgia vibes. It's like reading a B movie, you know what I mean? This will fulfill the Freddy's Nightmares prompt, since it is a horror book, and also the Ghostwriter prompt. In this, one of the characters paints, he like designs book covers, which is really cool. So, and like, look at this book cover, it's so cool. I feel like this just has great like OSA vibes to begin with, so to be able to fit it into your OSA TBR, really, you should. Next is The Goonies, read a middle grade or YA book. For this, I'm recommending The Call by Peter O'Gillen. This would fulfill the Larger Than Life prompt. I'm pretty sure that this fulfills the Buffy prompt, since I'm pretty sure that the main character in this is a girl. This fulfills the Teen Witch prompt, the Fern Gully prompt, since there is nature on the cover, the Willow prompt, since it is a fantasy, the Goonies prompt, since it's YA, and also Once Upon a Forest, since the cast is kids. This is a really like creepy YA book. Listen, we're getting down there. We're getting down there. We're getting down there. Okay, Jesus. Okay, next prompt, True Life, read a nonfiction book. I'm recommending Evidence of Love by John Bloom and Jim Atkinson. And one of my very favorite facts about this, which I didn't know, I read this book and then I watched something on this. I can't remember. It was like a 60 minutes type of thing. And I was watching this and they're interviewing John Bloom, author of Evidence of Love. And guess who it was on the fucking screen? It was fucking Joe Bob Briggs. I was like, what? Yeah, apparently, Joe Bob Briggs wrote this fucking book, and his name is really John Bloom, and that is like one of my very favorite things I've ever accidentally discovered in my life. So, Evidence of Love. Evidence of Love, if you read this, it is really a really excellent true crime book, but this would fulfill the Larger Than Life prompt, the Retro Vintage prompt. If you were born in the 80s, this would be a yearbook prompt, Tiny Toons prompt for sure, obviously the True Life prompt, and Scooby-Doo prompt, because woman was the real monster. Also, you could say you read a weird book by Joe Bob Briggs. How strange is that? Okay, next prompt, Back to the Future, read a book featuring time travel or multiple timelines. For this, I chose Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. If you read this, this will fulfill Back to the Future prompt, the X-Files prompt, since it's a sci-fi book, the Neon prompt, and the Larger Than Life prompt. Okay, then we have the halfway to Halloween prompt, read a book set around Halloween. For this, I'm recommending All Hallows by Christopher Golden. This will fulfill the halfway to Halloween prompt. The Once Upon a Forest prompt, most of the characters in this are children. The Fern Gully prompt, since it has all these brambles on the cover. The Time Warp prompt, this is set, I think, in the 80s. 1984, yeah, perfect. And then also the Larger Than Life prompt. And also probably Freddy's Nightmares, since it's a horror book. Once Upon a Forest, read a coming of age story or a book with a cast of kids as the main characters. For this, I'm choosing My Best Friends Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. If you read this, you will fulfill the Larger Than Life prompt. The Time Warp prompt, this is set in the 80s. Obviously, the Neon Colors prompt. The Buffy prompt, since the main character is a woman, or is a girl, I guess. The Once Upon a Forest prompt, and the Freddy's Nightmare prompt, since it is a creepy horror novel. The Freddy Nightmares prompt, read a book that could give you nightmares. For this, I decided to pick The Auctioneer by Joan Sampson, and I did look. You can get this on Kindle if you're worried about being able to get a copy easily. But also this was reprinted by Valancourt Books, so you don't have to hunt down a vintage copy, which is really nice. So if you read this, you could fulfill the Larger Than Life prompt, the Retro Vintage prompt. If you're born in the 70s, this would fulfill the yearbook prompt for you. This would fulfill the Buffy prompt, since this is written by a female author. The Freddy's Nightmares prompt, and the Scooby-Doo prompt, since man is a real monster sometimes. Next prompt, Britpop / British Invasion. Read a book written by a British author. And for this, such a good book. This is The Vessel by Adam L.G. Neville. If you read this, it would fulfill the Buffy prompt, since the main character is a woman. The Mini-Me prompt, because this is a novella. The Freddy's Nightmares prompt, because this book is ooky spooky. And also the I keep wanting to say Brit-popped prompt. The Brit-pop prompt. The next prompt is Nirvana / grunge. Read a used or borrowed book. So you don't have to go out and buy a book. This could be a book that you rent from the library. This could be a book you borrow from somebody. You could borrow it from a parent. You can borrow it from a partner, a friend, anybody. This could be a book that you got from the Little Free Library. This could be a book that you got from a used bookstore. So, Ghostwriter, read a book about books or about writers. And for this, I chose The Book of Most Precious Substance by Sarah Gran. This book is totally about books. If you read this would count for Larger Than Life, Buffy, Teen Witch, Fern Gully, since it has these beautiful flowers on the front, and also Ghostwriter. Next, Scooby-Doo. Read a book where man is the real monster. This is one I don't have a copy of. This is Basketful of Heads by Joe Hill. This is another graphic novel. And if you read this would fulfill Time Warp. This is set in the 80s. Buffy, the protagonist, is a woman. Teen Witch, there's some magical shit going on. Muppet Babies, since it's a graphic novel, and then Scooby-Doo. This is like a really good revenge story, so man is definitely the real monster in this. For new kids on the block, this is one I cannot pick for you. I cannot recommend for you, I guess. This is really specific to you. This is to read a new to you author or genre, but I feel like this is going to be so easy for you to pick. Any author you've never read before, any genre you've never read before, there you go. Mwah, so easy. Last prompt, Little Golden Books. Read a book with gold on the cover. For this, I chose Small Favors by Aaron A. Craig. If you read this book, this fulfills quite a few. If you read this book, it would fulfill the Little Golden Books prompt, the Larger Than Life prompt, the Buffy prompt, the Breakfast Club prompt, since it has honey on the cover, the Fern Gully prompt, the Willow prompt, because it is a fantasy, the Monster Squad prompt, because there are monsters in this book, and also the Goonies prompt, because this is a YA book. How many is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, easily. You don't even have to be born in the decade this was written in. So, holy crow. My throat kind of hurts. Okay, well, there are not quite 45 books there, because some of the prompts are really specific to you, reader. But there are maybe about 40 books, 38, 40 books. Oh, Jesus. I am going to type this out. I don't know. I'm just trying to make this actually helpful. You know what I mean? We'll see how this works, you guys. I just have such limited time for things these days. You know what I mean? But that's not me complaining. I'm just trying to maximize. I'm trying to be so fucking efficient. You know what I mean? That's all I'm trying to say here. So hopefully this is helpful. I really wish I had the time to like go through each of these prompts individually and recommend multiple things. There's a lot of prompts here, which makes it really fun, and means that most books that you pick, also, I hope that this showcases that most books that you pick will be able to fit multiple prompts. I mean, you might not know it when you pick it up, but by the time you read it, I think especially because looking at my TBR over here, you can't see it because it's a secret until I film it. But looking at mine, there's a couple where I'm like, oh, this looks like it only fits one or two, but I know based on what I have here, it will for sure fit a couple. I just have to read it first. Anyway, so that's what I have. That's all I have for you. Let me know. Was this helpful to you? Please say yes. Please say yes. Are you participating in Old School April? Please say yes. Are you a silver snake? Please say yes. Oh boy, I need to eat something. I'm feeling a little bit Tiny Toons, if you know what I mean. So what else do I have to say here? I don't know. Check out my link tree with all my referrals, my Pinko shop, all that kind of stuff. I have referrals. I feel like I don't talk about it enough, but I have referrals to Ever, and you get like, I think 60 days. If you use my referral to sign up, you get a free audiobook credit. If you use my Libra FM credit to sign, or referral to sign up, things like that. Check that shit out. Obviously I get things in return too. It's not, it is advantageous to me as well. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you guys later. Goodbye.